I was standing in the freezing cemetery, my boots sinking into the wet grass as I stared at two fresh plots, when my phone began to buzz aggressively inside my heavy winter coat. In one grave lay my loving husband, Tom, and in the other was my beautiful 6-year-old daughter, Lily, the two people who were my entire world, now reduced to freshly turned earth under a gray sky. My parents and my brother Nathan didn't just skip the burial. They actively dismissed the tragedy as a trivial event not worth postponing their life for before flying off to Hawaii the very next morning. 5 days after burying my entire universe alone, my mother called me, not to offer comfort or grieve her grandchild, but to coldly demand $40,000 for my brother's failing business. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where ordinary women face the impossible cruelty of toxic families and choose to respond with quiet, undeniable strength instead of loud and empty noise. If you have ever felt abandoned by the people who were supposed to love you most, grab a seat, drop a comment, and make sure to stay until the very end of this journey. These days, my alarm wakes me up at 4 a.m. while the world is still entirely dark, and I walk across the gravel driveway without ever turning on the kitchen light because there is no one left inside to see it. The first thing my fingers touch in the freezing dawn is the cold metal of my rig keys, warming up in my palm as the cab fills with the heavy smell of diesel and old coffee. I had driven long-haul routes for 11 years before the storm took my family, constantly dealing with dispatchers who assumed the truck belonged to my husband, while Tom just grinned and enjoyed the silence. I still keep his favorite coffee mug riding shotgun on the passenger seat right next to me. I never drink from it, but I just like knowing his memory is traveling down the interstate by my side. People often mistake grief for a loud, screaming emotion, but mostly, it is just a collection of quiet mornings where your hand automatically reaches out for someone only to close on empty air. By the cabin door, 2 pairs of small yellow rubber boots still sit exactly where Lily left them, and every single morning at 4 a.m., I promise myself I will move them, but I never do. Less than a year ago, I was a woman with a beautiful family to come home to, but then the spring rains poured down for 3 solid days, turning local creeks into violent walls of raging water. I was 500 miles away hauling produce through Ohio when the flash flood hit the low water crossing, sweeping Tom's truck a quarter-mile downstream into the heavy cottonwood trees. I drove home through 4 states in 9 hours flat, with my hands shaking violently on the steering wheel, desperately doing the agonizing math of every single what-if that could have saved them. I arrived to find a town full of grieving neighbors leaving casseroles on my porch, but the 2 people I needed most were already gone, and I was 9 hours too late to say goodbye. When I frantically called my mother from the kitchen floor, her immediate response was to ask if the funeral could be delayed 2 weeks because it conflicted with their non-refundable family vacation. My sister-in-law, Mallory, even texted the group chat stating that the kids were looking forward to the beach, explicitly typing out that my family's sudden demise was a trivial event not worth attending. Not a single person in my immediate biological family asked how Lily died, what middle name should go on the headstone, or if I was surviving alone in that empty house. They simply gave a thumbs up to Mallory's message and boarded their flight to Honolulu, leaving the front pew of the church completely empty on the morning I had to bury my husband and child. But the second row was packed shoulder to shoulder with truck dispatchers, diner ladies, Lily's crying schoolteacher, and my Uncle Ernest, who stood beside me like a solid anchor in a brutal storm. I delivered the eulogy myself, telling the crowded room that Tom always slowed down for yellow lights, and Lily drew lumpy trucks instead of princesses, never once mentioning the cruel absence in the front row. As I stood by the grave sites after the service, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from my mother in Honolulu, which I let ring out into the damp grass without answering. 5 days later, I finally picked up out of pure exhaustion, only to hear the loud sounds of the airport terminal and my mother's cold voice demanding $40,000 for Nathan's debts. When I asked her what money she was talking about, she scoffed and uttered the manipulative line that will haunt my dreams forever. "We can always make more money, Danielle, but we can't make more family." She dared to lecture me on family value while standing on a Hawaiian beach, trying to pry away my savings to rescue her favorite son, who couldn't even bother to attend his niece's funeral. The $40,000 was a sum my parents had gifted me at Christmas years ago, to help me purchase my own commercial truck rig instead of driving for other companies. To secure the bank loan back then, they had both signed a legal certified gift letter stating explicitly that the money was a true gift with absolutely no expectation of repayment. My mother had completely forgotten about that document, reclassifying the gift as a family investment in her mind the moment Nathan's car dealership began to sink under heavy floor plan loans. Nathan called me the very next day, completely avoiding the subject of Lily's death, and dismissively said, "Look, Danielle, you're alone now, so what do you even need that money for anyway?" Mallory then chimed in via text, claiming that family wealth was a shared pool and that my selfish attitude was actively hurting the people who had raised me from a child. To make matters worse, a cousin informed me that my mother was spreading lies to the extended family, painting me as a cruel, wealthy villain who abandoned her brother in his hour of need. One night, exhausted by the nonstop harassment, I actually opened my checkbook to write the amount just to make the phone stop ringing and end the emotional torture. Uncle Ernest caught me in the act and gently pointed out that I would be paying them to live with the guilt of skipping my daughter's burial, causing me to immediately slam the checkbook shut. The next morning, I threw myself entirely into my work, facing skeptical bank officers and doubtful freight brokers, who all assumed a grieving widow would immediately fold and sell her equipment. Following the blunt advice of an experienced older dispatcher named Glenda, I ignored the doubters entirely, contacted every shipper who ever trusted Tom, and outworked every single competitor in the region. I landed a massive grocery chain contract that required an immediate second tractor, so I finally climbed into Tom's spotless old truck to clean out his personal belongings for cash. Deep inside the door pocket, I found his old paper logbook where he had handwritten his ultimate dream: buy our own rig, get our name on the door, Carver and Daughter Freight. Seeing that name written in his careful block letters broke my heart, especially when I looked at Lily's crayon drawing of 3 lumpy trucks still clipped to the dashboard visor. They had called her life a trivial event, so I legally changed the company name to Carver and Daughter Freight, ensuring her memory would roll down every single interstate in America. Meanwhile, Renee, my loyal cousin, called to warn me that my parents were planning to publicly ambush and humiliate me at their upcoming 40th wedding anniversary party in front of 40 relatives. Instead of hiding at home, a profound calmness washed over me as I went to the bank, paid a small fee, and retrieved a certified stamped copy of the original gift letter they had signed. Renee had also uncovered a time-stamped vacation photo my mother posted online, showing the entire family smiling with cocktails on the beach the exact morning after Lily's burial. Equipped with the undeniable timeline and the certified bank document, I walked into the crowded church hall, completely bypassing the sugar sheet cake and the fake smiles of my brother. When my father stood up, tapped his glass, and publicly accused me of being ungrateful for refusing to return the $40,000, the entire room turned to judge me. I calmly stood up without raising my voice, laid the time-stamped beach photo and the certified bank gift letter flat on the white tablecloth, and exposed their lies to every single relative present. The room fell dead silent as my mother turned pale, and Nathan started shouting in panic, completely unable to dispute their own signatures and the digital timestamps of their vacation. I looked my mother in the eyes, told her she was right that we can't make more family, and calmly walked out of their lives forever into the clean, quiet night air. Today, my company operates 5 beautiful green trucks featuring Lily's crayon artwork, supported by true friends like Ernest and Renee, who actually show up when it matters most. Please subscribe and share our channel, as we make videos for you to remind you that true family isn't blood, but the people who stand by you in the dark.